Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be continuing our 2022 House prediction series by taking a look at the Midwestern region of the United States. We've already covered every other area of the country except New England, so if you want to see those videos and more videos like it on my channel, please consider subscribing down below and hitting the bell notification. I'll leave a link to the House prediction playlist at the end of this video. So let's just get straight into it. So already off the bat, we have 226 seats for the Republicans, including all of the other predictions we've already made around the country, as well as the safe red districts and safe blue districts factored in for the Midwest. Now, we have 3 states that have no competitive districts as of right now. That's, of course, Missouri and the Dakotas. But we'll start off with the state of Kansas and work our way east as we go through these states. So, looking at the state of Kansas, Sharice Davis, who is the incumbent Democrat in the district, won her last election by about 10 points. So she underperformed Biden slightly. I think Biden won her district by about 11 in the last election. She won the district by 10. Of course, with redistricting, her district has changed a lot. She goes from an D+4 district, which votes about 4 points to the left of the nation in 2020, to a R+3 district that votes to the right of the nation. So if we look at her new district rating, and I didn't know 270 had this feature until relatively recently. We're going to use this especially in our fall prediction videos because it's extremely helpful. But if we look at the new rating for her district, Biden only won her current district by 4.5 points. Given the red wave we're expected to see, I already anticipate a flip in this Kansas district, probably by about 5 to 6 points. Maybe a bit less, honestly. We'll go maybe about 3 or 4. But I do think Sharice Davis will lose her re-election given this new redistricting. Moving on up to Nebraska, Don Bacon is a pretty strong incumbent. I believe Biden won his district by about 6 points in the last election, 6 to 7 points. And he also won in the blue wave year of 2018, fending off progressive challenger, Kara Eastman, I believe was her name. And going ahead to the 2022 midterms, it looks like his district, again, this is a 6.4 Democratic district. If we take a look at how Nebraska is redistricted this time around, and there's not really a whole lot to change here. It's really just how much of the Omaha area and the suburbs will encompass the second district. But if we go to the old district, this was essentially an even district, and if you look at the 2020 election results, it voted slightly to the left of the nation, the nation going about 5 points in favor of Biden, the district going about 6, almost 7. We look at the new map, it's now R+3. I think given his previous election results, I think Don Bacon, given the fact that he's in a more favorable district now, will also win re-election. I think he'll win it by a pretty wide margin too. I'd say about 8 points or so. He was able to defeat Kara Eastman by a number of points back in 2018 and 2020. Again, they were single digits margins. The races were close, but he was able to hold on where districts a lot redder, like the Oklahoma district, etc., actually flipped. So I think that says something about him as a candidate. I'm going to give that to him by a likely margin. I think he'll win there fairly easily this time around. Moving on over to the state of Iowa, we have 3 not safe districts in Iowa. Going back to the 2020 election, all of these districts except the 4th were relatively close, within really about 3 points actually. So right off the bat, the Republican districts, again, if we look at Iowa throughout the redistricting process, the new maps give Iowa's districts a much more red partisan lean. The only one that isn't is Miller Meeks. Her district gets slightly bluer, but nonetheless, you have Iowa's second as R+6 now. I think there's no doubt that the incumbent there is going to win, probably by a likely margin given the wave environment. Miller Meeks will probably win by about 5 points in her district. Again, she won extremely narrowly back in 2020, winning by just a handful of votes. So it really goes to show you that every vote does count, but this time around, I think she'll be in a better position. She is an incumbent now. I think that's going to give her a huge advantage in a red wave year especially. Finally, we go to Iowa's 3rd district. Cindy Axne, the lone Democratic candidate from the Iowa congressional delegation, only won her last election by 1.4%, an extremely close race. Given the fact that her district is R+2 both times around, we can expect a similar partisan lean in this midterm election. So I think she will end up losing re-election. This will be a flip. This will give Iowa a full Republican delegation after November 2022. So already we have 2 flips on the board. Next, we're going to move on to the state of Minnesota. So far, we have 3 solid Republican districts, 3 solid Democratic districts. If we take a look at Minnesota's maps this time around, you have the bottom district, which is an R+14. This is actually an open seat. I don't think this is going to be a flip. I think whoever wins this in the special election this summer will end up winning this seat, probably by a likely margin, about 6 to 7 points. This is actually an R+15 district, so it could be larger, but given the fact that they're going to be a relatively new candidate, I'll say as of right now, they'll probably win it by about 6 to 8 points, somewhere in that range. And finally, we get to the Minnesota 2nd District with Angie Craig. It is a D+1 district, the same as it was last time around. If we look at those results in the last election, Angie Craig only won by 2.2%. If we take a look at the partisan lean of her district, or how much Biden won her district, it was about 7.4%, so a decent amount. However, given her poor performance and the fact that she underperformed Biden pretty considerably, with Biden winning her district by about 7 points, yet her only really winning it by 2, I'm going to make this another flip for the Republicans. So Republicans will outnumber Democrats in the Minnesota House delegation for the first time in probably a long time. So it's already 3 flips on the board. Republicans at 233 to Democrats 164. We'll move over down to Illinois. This will be a pretty interesting state because a lot of these districts were drawn purposely to exclude Republicans from getting any significant gains in this cycle and future cycles. And honestly, the Illinois map is probably one of the most surgically precise gerrymanders in the entire country, because almost all of these districts, in fact, all of the districts that are toss-ups or lean one way or the other, are Democratic districts. All the Republican districts are beyond safe districts. You know, they're R+48, R+42. So they've really drawn and packed Republicans into just 3 districts. The only real competitive districts this cycle are probably the 13th and the 17th. Right off the bat, I think the 17th will be a flip for the Republicans, narrowly. The Democratic incumbent in this district only barely outperformed Biden, winning the district by about 4%. If we take a look at the partisan lean of that district, it was an R+5. Now it is a D+4, which seems to be a sizable shift. But if we actually look at how much Biden won this district, it was only by 7.8%. And it's going to be an open seat because the incumbent Democrat is not running for re-election. So I think Republicans right off the bat will probably pick up this seat in the House. Moving on down to Illinois' 13th congressional district, a D+7. This is another district that I think could very well be competitive. It was a district that Biden won by 11.3%. It has no incumbent Democratic representative. Given the environment, again, this is kind of a bold prediction, but I think this will be a tilt Republican flip, just because I think Republicans will be able to probably field a candidate that could win in this district. However, I think in 2024 and beyond, this is going to be a blue district. No doubt, unless you really see like a Mike Garcia situation in which you have a fairly conservative Republican in a pretty blue district outperform Democrats down ballot consistently. This might be a flip this time around just because it's an open seat, but I think in the future we're not going to see that for Republicans. Moving on over to the more or less competitive districts, we'll start off with the D+10 district. This is probably going to be a likely, if not safe, district. I just wanted to talk about it because it is only D+10. It's a Chicago suburb district. Perhaps maybe if you see a trend away from Democrats in these suburbs because of this off-year election, you could see a likely margin. In fact, we'll leave it as likely for now, which probably on the higher end, 8 to 12 points, somewhere in there, probably 8 to 10, really. Looking on over to Illinois' 14th, this is a D+7, similar to the open seat. So if that's any indication, Biden probably won this by about 11 or so points. I think this will be a lean margin for Democrats. The incumbent there will probably win by about 4 to 5 points. And finally, we get to Marie Newman's district, formerly Dan Lipinski's district. This district is interesting because Dan Lipinski was a fairly conservative Democrat, would buck the party publicly many times in his tenure in the House. I'm not exactly sure how much Biden won Lipinski's district. We could take a look really quickly, though. I believe it was by about 11 or 12 points. It was actually a fairly decisive margin for the Democrats here, despite him being such a conservative representative in his tenure. Yeah, he won this district by basically a safe margin. So if that's any indication whatsoever, and again, we look at where the district was last time, it was D+10. The district did get redder. It's D+6 now. and there actually is a Democrat possibly challenging Marie Newman in the primary. For now, I'm probably going to put this district as lean Democrat because Marie Newman is more of a progressive Democrat. She probably will be facing a primary challenger, and this district has gotten redder, but ultimately I still expect her to prevail in the midterms. Moving on up to Wisconsin, the easiest flip, I think, for Republicans in the entire Midwestern region is Ron Kind's district. This is the 3rd district of Wisconsin. It is an R+9. Previously, it was also an R+9, so no real change there. But taking a look at Ron Kind's margin of victory, he only won this race with 51.3% of the vote in a year where Democrats were up by 5 points, which means the district voted for Trump by about 3 or 4. Given the fact that the Republicans are favored in the national environment and the fact that Ron Kind is not running for re-election, I think this is automatically going to be a Republican flip, probably in the likely category. I'd say the Republican wins here by about 7 to 8 points, given the environment and given the partisan lean of the district. And probably in future elections, we'll be able to hold on, even in bad years for Republicans, potentially like 2026 and beyond. Moving on down to Wisconsin's 1st. This is a district that goes from R+14 to just R+6. If we take a look at Wisconsin's 1st in 2020, and they don't really have it here, but I'm going to guess that Donald Trump narrowly won this district. I think that's probably going to be likely Republican as well. Republicans winning here by about 5 to 6 points, potentially higher given the environment. It is R+6, but keep in mind in the future, Democrats probably may have a shot at flipping this district, considering that it got significantly bluer. It goes from R+6 to it was R+14, then it goes to R+6. So we'll see how that plays out in the future. But moving along to the state of Indiana, there's really only one district that is somewhat competitive in Indiana, and that is the 1st congressional district. This is a district that got relatively close in the 2020 election. I believe Biden won this district, but it was by a narrower margin, and I think the district had moved to the right since 2016. Biden won this district with 53% of the vote to Trump's almost 45%. It would be a tough seat to flip. I believe the incumbent is running again, so I think as of right now, the Democrat will have the advantage, but I could potentially see this district getting competitive just because of the midterm environment, and also could potentially flip if the right candidate is run and the environment goes further enough to the right. Moving on up to Michigan, we've got several seats to talk about here. First, we'll start off with the seat that John James, the former Republican Senate nominee, both times in 2020 and 2018, is running in. He's running in the 6th district. If we take a look at the lean of the 6th district on 270, I believe Biden won this district, but very narrowly. Biden wins this district by about 1 point. I was right. Elisa Slotkin is the incumbent here. Given the lean of the district, John James is a strong candidate. I expect this to be a flip. It's R+6. Even if we have an R+2 year, that's a rough victory for the Republican of about 4 points. I'm going to put it as lean for now because you do have an incumbent there. I've heard that Slotkin is sort of a moderate. I'm not sure how true that is. That could help her in the general election, but I think ultimately 2022 is going to be a toxic year for Democrats just all across the ballot, and I think she will end up losing. This will be another flip on the board. Moving on up to the 8th congressional district. This is a R+1 district. Daniel Kidley is the nominee here. This was previously a D+1 district. Kidley is an interesting representative because he overperformed massively in this district back in 2020. I believe his district now is a Biden 2.1 district. So this will be an interesting prediction, but given his strength in previous elections, I'm going to narrowly give him this district. I'm going to give it to him by a tilt margin because I think he's going to be in an extremely close fight. And this could easily change in November. But given the fact that he tends to outperform by a pretty considerable margin in this district compared to other Democrats, I'm going to narrowly give him this. However, this could easily change just given the midterm environment. But I think he narrowly holds on to his seat here in Michigan's 8th congressional district. Moving on down to Michigan's 7th. Oh, this is Slotkin's district. I was wrong, actually. Michigan's 10th, I completely messed up here. Michigan's 10th was actually a Trump district. So, given that, I actually will move this into the likely category. This was an open seat. I don't know how I mixed these two up. But no, John James will win this district, probably by a much larger margin, especially since he outperformed Trump by a couple of points back in 2020. And especially in the suburbs, John James did a lot better than Trump in the state of Michigan. This is Slotkin's district. So this district is an R+4. Previously, it was actually an R+6, so the district gets a little bit redder. Back in 2020, Slotkin won this district by a little bit over 3%. I think she loses re-election. I think she'll probably lose by about 4 to 5 points to a Republican challenger, given the midterm environment. Moving on down to the 4th district. This is Fred Upton's district. He was previously in a district with the exact same partisan lean. Now he's being challenged. I don't think Fred Upton is running for re-election. I think he's actually been in Congress for a couple of decades now. He's not running for re-election. He was a very liberal Republican compared to the rest of Republicans, would vote with Democrats on a number of key issues. This is an open seat now. It's an R+9. I don't think it's on the board for 270. It's not. So we'll just have to kind of take a guess that Trump probably won this district by about 4 to 5 points. This will probably safely be in Republican hands. Republicans winning here by about 8 to 10 points, somewhere in that range. And that leaves us with Peter Meyer's district. This will be interesting to watch because this is now a D+3 district. Previously, it was an R+9. So the partisan lean of this district changed dramatically in redistricting. Again, this map's in litigation, although I really don't see this going anywhere. I think the maps we see nationally are probably the maps that are going to stay. Louisiana's been removed again, so we'll kind of see what happens with that map. But ultimately, I think the districts are relatively going to be the same. Moving on to Peter Meyer's district, this will be a challenging district for Republicans to win if Peter Meyer is not the nominee. Peter Meyer is a pretty moderate Republican. Biden won his current district by nearly 9 points. Meyer is a well-known name in the state of Michigan. It's a household name. And Meyer is a more moderate Republican. However, he might be primaried out. I don't know if he has a significant primary challenger. Let's just assume for the sake of this video that Peter Meyer is the nominee. I think he'll hold on probably by about 3 to 4 points. But if he's not the nominee, I would expect Democrats to pick up this district potentially in the midterms. Finally, that leaves us with the state of Ohio. We've got 4 competitive districts in Ohio. Again, these maps are kind of up in the air because I think they're kind of solid for 2022. However, I think in the future, these districts potentially could change in 2024 and beyond. So we'll see what happens with those. Looking at the 1st district here, Ohio's 9th, Marcy Kaptur is in an R+6 district. She was previously in a D16 district. I think this will probably be a flip. Marcy Kaptur has been in politics for decades. I believe her first election was back in the 1980s. I think she's going to lose this district just because of how much of rural Ohio has been added into this district. Previously, she was kind of in a gerrymandered blue district. I think it's going to be close, though. I think she's going to make it really close. She does overperform Democrats. She is a household name. I'm going to put it as tilt Republican, but I do think it's going to be a flip purely based on the partisan lean of the district. I could change this in the fall, but I think as of right now, this will be a flip. We've also got another competitive district in Ohio. That is Ohio's 13th. This was previously Anthony Gonzalez's district. This is a Biden 2.8 district. So ultimately, I think, given that it's an R+2, Biden only won it by 2 points. It's an open seat. Republicans are probably going to win here by a pretty comfortable margin, about 5 or 6. Again, it depends on the candidates, and the margin could change, but I think Republicans are going to win this district. Moving on down, this is a really interesting district here. We'll talk about the 1st in a second, but Ohio's 10th went from an R+9 to an R+8. Not much of a change, but if we take a look at, and they don't have it here, but I'm going to suspect that Biden probably lost this district by just a couple of points. This will probably easily stay in Republican hands, but I think the interesting district here, Steve Chabot is currently in a D+3 district. I believe it's a district that Biden won by about 8 points. He was previously in an R+8, so redistricting kind of put him in a really difficult position this time around. This will be an interesting race to watch. I think that ultimately Chabot will probably win, but I think in the future this is going to be a very close district and probably will be a flip. But as of right now, and again, Abbott didn't win by considerably large margins, even with an R+8 district. He won by about 7 points in 2020, so he did overperform Biden in his district. As of right now, I'll probably put this as lean Republican. I think he'll hold on, but I think in the future, Republicans are at risk of actually losing this seat if these Ohio maps do stand throughout the decade. Anyway, guys, that's it for this video. This puts us at Republicans with 245 seats to Democrats 169. We have one region left, New England, and we'll talk about that because it is more interesting than you think. There are slightly more competitive races when you actually dig deeper in the New England area. That video coming out soon. So anyway, guys, thank you again for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like this video down below. And as always, again, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.